بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الحمد لله حمدا ونشكره شكرا ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم تسليما كثيرا مزيدا رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي اللهم ربي زدنا علما وارزقنا فهما سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم اللهم وفقنا بعلم وعمل بما تحب وترضى اللهم ارزقني إخلاص في القول والعمل. I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that may this episode be a means of salvation of the sins we have committed. I also pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that for every second and minute where we're investing in to listen to this episode, may it be a means for us to draw ourselves closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and may that means be a means for us to get admission to this paradise. I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that may He grant me the ability to present and may He grant you the ability to understand. Whatever goodness only lies solely in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whatever evil I would like to ascribe to myself and then shaitan. Let us continuously send our salam and salutation upon our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. How are you guys doing? Hope everyone is in good state of iman and health. Now, in the last episode, I went through with you on the importance of marriage, where I touched on the ayah from Surah An-Nisa, chapter number 4, verse number 21, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reveals بعد أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وكيف تأخذونه وقد أفضى بعضكم إلى بعض وأخذنا منكم ميثاقا غليظا. And how can one snatch away the mahar, the gift that we exchange during the marriage when both have exchanged breath, which is physical interaction, intimacy between each other. And we indeed have taken from you a serious contract, heavy contract, a weighty contract. And then I went through with you roughly and briefly on what this contract is, who is this contract favored upon, and who is liable for this contract, and what when a person embarks to sign on this agreement, right, what are the mutual understanding the person must have. And we then went into the topic of what is the ruling on marriage. When I spoke to you from the ayah of Surah An-Nisa in the very beginning, فَانْكِحُوا مَا طَابَ لَكُم مِّنَ النِّسَاءِ, marry, wed from what you prefer of the women, right? And what are the opinions of the scholars based upon those verses, right? Based upon those, was it mustahab, or was it wajib, or is it highly recommended? And how Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam guided the ummah as a whole by continuously urging the ummah to marry. From the hadith of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says, "Tazawwajul walud al-walud," marry the lovable, affectionate partner, for I will be boasting on the quantity on the day of judgment. And what are the repercussions and consequences when a person is against marriage, celibacy, deliberately not getting married, when you have the chance and privilege and you have the means, however, the individual chose not to marry due to their own decisions. And how Prophet ﷺ then reminded this group of people who insist not to get into marriage. And also went through with you roughly on the definition by Imam Qurtubi on the ability for a person to get married. So these are some of the discussion I shared with you during my last episode. Today, in continuation from my previous episode, I would like to touch on the significance of marriage, right? The significance of marriage. Now, marriage is a sunnah of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's not Islamically categorized. I'm not Islamically saying that, this is something which is wajib, but it is the tradition of our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And there are a couple of hadiths related to this topic, the significance of marriage, and got to do with the sunnah, right? The way and the manner of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There are about 2 to 3 hadiths related to this topic. I will start with the first hadith, which is narrated by Anas ibn Malik radiallahu ta'ala anhu. About 3 men came to the house of the wives of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In another narration, Nafrun Ja'a, one person came, but what it can alternatively mean is a group of people who came. And yes, alone, they started to question the Prophet's wife regarding the private affair, the private life of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, how is Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is as a husband at home? What does he do? What are his daily chores, daily activity, daily tasks where he do day to day in his house? So when this question was posted to the wives of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the wives were very genuine in their response, and they started to narrate to the companion, the disciples of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, on what they observe in their own household, about him praying in the middle of the night, about him fasting in some of the days, about him, refraining from certain activities. So when they managed to gather this knowledge from the lips of the wives of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the companion then started to do a comparison. They started to compare themselves. Where is Prophet Muhammad compared to themselves? So where are we in comparison to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? And furthermore, right, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, Inna fatahna laka fathan mubina liyaghfira laka Allahu ma taqaddama min dhanbika wa ma ta'akhkhar, that Allah has forgiven the past and the future sins of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They started to have a deep reflection. They contemplated very deeply. The fact that Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam sins are forgiven even after his sins of his past and future are being forgiven, still he is a dedicated devotee to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they started to see that they are far off from Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So as such, in the conclusion of their gathering from the knowledge which they have gathered from the wife, so one of them started to say, Ana usalli, I shall offer prayer all night long, while the other say, I shall observe fasting perpetually, never to break it. So one of them say, I will pray, all night long, I'm not going to sleep. The other say that, I shall observe fasting throughout the day. And while the other companion started to say that, I shall abstain from women and will never marry. And while they were in their discussion, Prophet overheard their conversation. And Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "Ma balu aqwamin yaquluna kada kada And when Rasulullah SAW heard that, he responded to them by stating that, what's wrong with my people, right? They are saying such and such thing. And in another narration, are you the people who said such and such thing? And Prophet ﷺ, Wallahi, he said, right? He swore an oath upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that I fear Allah more than you do. So no one has taqwa, including myself. You can see, mashallah, Ustaz, you have a family, you do this, you do that. No, none can ever come close to the way Rasulullah fear than anyone. Everyone is beneath. Abu Bakr Siddiq is below Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Umar ibn Khattab and Uthman ibn Affan, Ali ibn Abi Talib, all the other, Zayd ibn Thabit, Uqba radiallahu ta'ala, all the companions who were together with Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, none can be in par of fear of the way Prophet fear than the way Prophet feared compared to any other companion. He feared the most. And then he said, I am most obedient and dutiful among you to him. And not only that he fears, the fact that he fears, he is the most obedient and the most dutiful among you to him. However, I observe fasting sometimes, not every day. And I break it on other occasions. So he fasts and he breaks his fast. He sleeps and he wakes up in the middle of the night, he prays and then he sleeps again. And I also marry women. فَمَنْ رَغِبَ عَنْ سُنَّتِي, whoever shies away or turns away, in another translation, from my practices, he is not from me. So this hadith has been narrated in Bukhari and Muslim. So as being mentioned, Prophet ﷺ was crystal clear in the message he was getting across to the companion and sending a stern reminder that if anyone wants to do any other things which is not from my practices, then it is not from me. So here the scholars went deep to understand this hadith further. Now, what are some of the virtues where we are able to learn? What are some of the benefits we are able to derive from this hadith? Number one, the recommendation of continuously following the ways of our seniors and following the step of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That we need to follow closely as much as possible. And this is also the revelation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when Allah mentions in the Quran chapter number 3 verse number 31, Qul in kuntum tuhibbuna Allah fattabi'uni. If you love Allah, then follow Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam as close as possible. And the virtues of marriage and encouragement of it. So Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not say, oh, that's good, when the companion stated his statement, stating that I'm not going to get married, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam affirmed, Rasulullah did not affirm the statement. He did not affirm the statement that what you said was right. No, he said, no, I married, right? It gives an endorsement. It gives a strong statement that Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam also gets married. And one may do righteous deed openly and inform others about them, provided he feels secure from them, thereby becoming arrogant. So when Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he addressed the companion, he is revealing now the fact that Prophet have not shared his private life with his companion means that he was trying to draw a line. But when the companion had the urge to know how was his private life, they went to inquire with his wives, with Prophet's wife. And when they responded, then Prophet had to educate them on the action he does, on the dedication he dedicates out from his public life. Not that he is boastful or arrogant, just that people like you and me are able to derive essential lessons in our private life. And deeds that are Islamically permitted may become recommended, disliked, or prohibited according to one's intention. So it's also very important on the intention we intend upon. So at that point of time, when the companion made the intention, their intention was right. However, it is not from the guidance of the Prophet. Now, imagine if the Prophet was completely oblivion of their conversation, and they were to take back the knowledge from the wife of Prophet and started to execute by one of them continuously praying one whole night, the others continuously fasting, and the other one continuously refraining or abstaining from not getting married. Intention, we say, mashallah, is a very good action, but is it in accordance? Now, when the Prophet when the message was heard by the Prophet, he intervened and he corrected. Intention, the actions are also right. The actions are not wrong. Praying is a revelation. Fasting is a revelation, right? And moving away from or abstaining oneself from getting married, getting yourself married with a woman, it's not a revelation, but it's a decision made by the individual companion. So the intention may be right, but the action is not in accordance to what Prophet do or what he does. So at that junction, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by his decree, got the Prophet over and highlighted on the statement which they have made and rectified their action, so that it will be a lesson not only for them, but also a lesson from us. And amazingly, Imam Tabari, rahimahullah, he then goes even further in digging into the statement stated by the companion of not fasting, not eating food, and praying one whole night. So this narration refutes the claim of those who forbid eating lawful foods. There will be a group of people, they will refrain, I should not eat this, and wearing permissible clothing, claiming that it is better to use harsh clothing and refrain from eating good food. However, Imam Ibn Hajar rahimahullah added to this, the fact of the matter is that the one who gets himself accustomed to them therefore cannot live without them. And on the flip side, consequently, when he is deprived from them, he may commit prohibition in order to attain what he is accustomed to. So on the other hand, refraining from them from the perspective of prohibiting them to oneself contradict the saying of Allah, قُلْ مَنْ حَرَّمَ زِينَةَ اللَّهِ الَّتِي أَخْرَجَ لِعِبَادِهِ وَالطَّيِّبَاتِ, in chapter number 7 of the Quran, Surah Al-A'raf, verse 32, when Allah says, who has forbidden the adornment of Allah which He has produced for His servant, and good lawful things of provision. So these are things where Allah has given us good clothes. He did not prohibit us from wearing good clothing. Allah did not prohibit us from eating good foods. But the companion, they concluded that this is how they should be in order for them to build a better connectivity with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there came Prophet Muhammad, the Qudwatul Hasana, the one who has the best example, the best role model. He came and corrected the statement of the companion, which is also a lesson for us in our own life. And the good deeds that are continuous are dearest to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even if they were few. So if you were to do fast every single Monday, you make it a custom in your life. Then you fast every Monday. Why? Because Monday is the day where Prophet was born. So you want to fast. And also you would like to accustom from refraining from some food, the food which you like the most, but you want to refrain for that particular time, and also for health benefit reasons. So then it's every week, right? It's something which is little, once a week, but there is istiqamah, consistency in the act you are doing. And the method of the Prophet, no doubt, is the best way, right? لقد كان لكم في رسول الله أسوة حسنة لمن كان يرجو الله واليوم الآخر وذكر الله كثيرا. Now there is indeed the best model لقد كان لكم في رسول الله. Indeed, in Prophet there is the best examples for those who believe in Allah and in the day of judgment and wants to try to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala more. So, and not to get into the arena of exaggeration as how the people of the past, the people who came before Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they exaggerated. Due to the exaggeration, they deluded away from the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when Allah says, Ya ahlal kitab, lima taghulu fi dinikum. Oh, people of the scripture, why are you exaggerating? So we should not exaggerate in things we want to do. So there must be no doubt that there will be always gap, including myself. You know, the psychic of humanity is when we start to focus on one action, one thing, naturally we will start to be lacking in the others, including myself. When I start to focus on my ibadah more, what happens is I have gaps in my family. And when I try to put in the effort for my family, what happens is I will have a gap in my which I'm not saying that I do not pray, it's just that the activity we do. So to find for the right fit is the most hardest thing, right? I equally share your concerns. I'm together with you. There will always be gaps because Allah knows that human is being created with gaps. That when you are focusing on one thing, you will have the tendency to overlook or forget on the other thing. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, fully called inside of a human being is verily created with weaknesses. What here it means is when you are trying to gain strength in one, you will overlook on the other. So this is when we supplicate and invoke to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to provide us with strength. It's very important. That is another thing where majority of us might have just overlooked. And in continuation of this particular hadith, I would like to conclude my session with a last hadith narrated by Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, where he said, and Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu ta'ala anhu qala Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, ya ma'shar al-shabab, O young men, man istata'a minkum al-ba', if you are able to support a wife, من استطاع منكم الباءة فليتزوج فإنه أغض للبصر وأحسن للفرج ومن لم يستطع فعليه بالصوم فإنه له وجاء. Whoever is not able to do so, he must fast as it will restrain his passion. Now this hadith is directed to the young men. Man istata'a minkum al-ba'. O young men, if you are able to support al-ba'a, means here financial. Means that you have the financial means, financial ability. On the other hand, it does not mean that you must own luxurious car, luxurious, is when you're going to marry someone, you need to look at the status and the ability of the person. If the person is at that level, if you're going to marry a princess, then you would then equally need to present her with a present like a princess, like a castle. If you're going to marry someone of your tier, your level, then you need to give what is appropriate and what is within the means and limitations of what Allah has provided you with. So when this is the first meaning of the financial ability. The next is no doubt is physicality, that physically the person must be able. So here we are able to understand that Rasulullah encouraged to marry, right? He gave words of encouragement, particularly to shabab, young men. So what it means is not only to get married, to find for sustenance in order for you to get yourself married. So to stabilize yourself is very important. To stand on your own feet. Even before you have the urge, I have the urge, you have the desire, I have the desire, but equally you and I need to work towards it, need to work for it in order for us to achieve and attain it. And and why do we need to get married? Number one, it lowers the gaze, right? It literally makes your soul come down. And it guards your chastity and my chastity. This is the reason why a person should get married. However, if the person is unable to get married due to financial instability or circumstances does not permit him to do so, then Prophet then give an alternative for the person to fast. Now, what is the merits of fasting? What are amongst the merits of fasting is for a person to restrain his passion. Because you and I, we all have passion, we all have desire, what we call as nafs. So the nafs can be tamed when a person fasts. This is the reason behind the person fasting. So as such, when a person hit upon the hadith of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and embarks on his path, you will start to see that even though the path can be very challenging and it has many obstacles, but when you surmount it, know that you and I equally able to earn the reward in this world and also in the hereafter. So hopefully what I have shared with you today is beneficial for you and beneficial for me. Whatever goodness is only from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whatever evil I would like to ascribe to myself and then shaitan. أقول ما تسمعون ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا يا مولانا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم اللهم انفعنا بما علمتنا وعلمنا ما ينفعنا وارزقنا علما تنفعنا في الدين والدنيا والآخرة ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار بفضلك سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون والسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته.